Okay. So chapter 6 that begins after 5 weeks. It begins 5 weeks later, and here we see that beloved starts hovering around or over all the characters, all the members in Sethe's family. That is Sethe, Paul D, and even Sethe's daughter Denver. Uh, so here we see that she becomes very much uh, familiar with the members of the family. And here we see that beloved, so this particular character who addresses or introduces herself as beloved, and she starts uh, flattering Sethe by various means, and thus we see that Sethe becomes very much attached with this particular character. And we know that beloved has a kind of a childlike nature, and that reminds Sethe about her own child who was also named beloved, and thus a kind of a mother-child affection is that grows among these between these two characters. And uh, gradually we start to know that beloved knows many intimate details about Sethe. Hmm. As she is placed as a very enigmatic character, and here we know that she has uh, uh, she is very much familiar with all the details about Shetty's character. So as a stranger, it is quite surprising, okay, that she has the information, some intimate details about Shetty's life. And she mentions many things about Shetty's life, some various details which really surprised Shetty. For example, she mentions Sethi's diamond earrings and her familiar knowledge about Sethi's past. Okay, so she has also a good knowledge about Sethi's past, mm, her mysterious life. And thus we see that Sethi starts to stir up Sethi's emotional pain. So Sethi's pain that is attached with her horrible past, and this painful memory that Sethi has been trying to suppress within her heart. She was actually trying to escape from her horrible past. But here we see that this appearance of beloved suddenly stirs up her emotional past. So this is one of the roles of this particular character, beloved, that she stirs up Shetty's emotional past. And thus she functions as a catalyst. Okay, so she functions as a catalyst for bringing forth Shetty's repressed memories. So these repressed memories are suddenly uh, um welled up, okay, stirred up by appearance of this particular character. And thus we find that we see that Shetty finds herself remembering something she had forgotten she knew. Okay, so she starts remembering all those things that she uh, had already uh, forgotten. Although she can no longer remember her mother's native language, but still she can remember all those things about her past life which were almost forgotten. Okay, so this is a very striking thing is that She has almost forgotten her mother tongue, her mother's language, but she cannot forget her horrible past that is still there in her uh, uh, unconscious mind. And she begins to recollect the various horrible incidents of her past that she had already forgotten. For example, Sethe remembers of her mother who had been raped many times by the white crew of the Middle Passage. So this is another horrible incident in Sethe's life, which she had almost forgotten, but with the appearance of Sethe, she again she is again overpowered by that horrible past. So that horrible memory of her mother, she saw her being raped by the white crew of the Middle Passage, and that horrible past suddenly uh, comes up in her mind. And her mother threw away all those babies born of those white crew of the Middle Passage. But Sethi's mother uh, kept her only. Okay, so Sethi was the only child uh, who has been kept by her mother. Why? Because uh, this child belongs to uh, a black man. Okay, so Sethi's mother kept her because she was the child of a black man. Okay, so this is the only child who is born of a father who was a black man, and that is why uh, Sethi's mother kept her. So Sethi's memory of her mother evokes important themes of motherhood. Okay, so motherhood, this is another significant themes in this particular novel, as I said before. Uh, so this particular memory of her mother that also evokes that important theme of motherhood. How did slavery threaten to destroy the bonds between mothers and children? So this is another significant theme of the story. Uh, how did slavery threaten to destroy the bonds between mothers and children? So slavery also destroys the relation between the bonds between mothers and children. So here we see that Sethi's relationship with her own mother uh, that explains her own protective, needy love toward her children. Anyway, now we come to chapter 7, and here we see that beloved, she gradually uh, um, having a control over all the characters in that family, and beloved greedily feeds on Sethi's stories. So she starts off all past memories of Sethi, but she uh, keeps herself completely secret all about. She doesn't reveal anything about herself. So this is another aspect of this particular character that beloved never reveals about anything about herself, but here in this story, she actually functions as as a catalyst because she uh, provokes the memories of other characters, other significant characters of the story, like Sethe, Paul D, particularly. Okay, so Beloved's function is to stir up the suppressed memories of Sethe and Paul D, although she herself remains uh, uh, enigmatic, okay, mysterious. And now we uh, come to know how Beloved starts affecting the life of Paul D. And we see that Paul D finds this unsettling and begins to resent how she come into their lives. So Paul D suddenly becomes very much apprehensive about this particular character, Beloved, because he thinks that Beloved, this sudden appearance of Beloved disturbs their their possibility of making a happy family. So Beloved's coming, her her surprise visit in this particular family creates a kind of a disturbance, and Paul D becomes very much apprehensive about that. So Paul D doesn't like the way Beloved is shining toward Sethe and suspects there is some significance to the timing of Beloved's arrival. Okay, so the timing of Beloved's arrival was very significant. Why? She appeared just when the three of them were starting to feel like a family. The three of them means Sethe, Paul D, and Denver. So when the three of them just started to feel like a family, just at that moment, Beloved arrived. So Paul D starts asking various questions to Beloved. She asks her when she came from and how she got there, but Beloved didn't answer directly. She just answers very cryptically. Cryptically, that means in a puzzling manner. She says that she has come from a place long, 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 long way. Nobody bring me, nobody help me. So she answers in a very confusing manner. And Siti, we see that she begins to have a kind of a sympathetic affection for this particular character, Beloved, and she wants her to stay with them. And she tells Paul D um, he could never understand how it feels to be a colored woman roaming the roads with anything God made liable to jump on you. So it is uh, difficult, a horribly difficult life that a colored woman, that is a black woman, leads throughout her life. So it's a terrible journey for any black woman, and Beloved must have suffered like her. Okay, so that's why Seti begins to sympathize this particular character. And here we see that Sethe and Paul D, they uh, they start conversing uh, on some past memories of their lives, and particularly the character Hale, who was Sethe's husband. And Sethe told that he believed that her husband betrayed her and the children. But Paul D uh, surmises that Hale must have witnessed school teacher's nephews assaulting Sethe. So when Sethe was being assaulted by the school teacher's nephews, perhaps Hale uh, saw that incident, and that made him uh, mad, a lunatic character. Okay, so he completely lost his mind when he saw Sethe to be assaulted, raped, and tortured by the nephews of the school teacher. Okay, so here you see that Sethi and Paul D and their conversation reveals that they both are trauma victims, and they both had almost similar kind of experience in their life of slavery, because they both were tortured almost in a similar manner, and they both were psychologically and physically assaulted, raped, and those horrible memories haunt their life throughout their life. And as I said before, that Paul D, he also, like Sethi, tried to hide or conceal his past uh, with all his attempt. Uh, as he said that he kept his he kept his horrible past uh, or his heart, that is his emotion, uh, in a tobacco bean. So that's a very significant image that is used in this story uh, that reveals the horrible past of Paul D's life. At Beloved's request, Denver Gately recites the story of her own birth, again evoking her mother's memory. So here we see that in chapter 8, now we come to chapter 8, here we see that uh, there is a kind of a relationship, a kind of a very affectionate relationship is developed between Denver and uh, Beloved. Okay, so here you see that Denver begins to imagine her mother through the eyes of Beloved. So here Beloved narrates various incidents in the life of Sethi, and Denver um, tries to uh, imagine her mother through the eyes of Beloved. Sethi's escape from sweet home and the infant to whom she has just given birth, that is Denver, represent her own resistance to slavery's attempt to control black motherhood. Okay, so the way slavery attempts to restrain or destroy uh, the black woman's motherhood is challenged by Sethi, because Sethi finally given birth to a child, and a kind of a mother-child relationship is uh, uh, grown up between Denver and Sethi, and thus she uh, creates a kind of a resistance, okay, to the slavery's attempt to control black motherhood. Now we come to chapter 9. Uh, this this chapter uh, again goes to the past incident, which centers around the character baby Suggs. Baby Suggs, as I said in the previous class, baby Suggs was also a slave, but she got freedom when she was bought by her own son, and she was replaced by Sethe. And we see that when Sethe also escaped from plantation, that is a life from slavery, and she come to baby Suggs' house. So here she meets baby Suggs, and she is reunited with her children. And there she spent almost 28 days, and Sethe experiences for the first time the freedom of unslaved life. The freedom of unslaved life. So, coming to baby Suggs' house, she first experienced freedom. She becomes a part of the of those 28 days, and Sethe experiences the, as I said, the freedom of unslaved life, and she becomes a part of the community. And as an expression of this new freedom, the freedom that she called an enslaved life, and she becomes the part of the that community. So she becomes a part of the community. When she was a slave, she just lived um, a life of alienation. As I said, that the slaves were never allowed to have relationship, have a family, or to mix with one another. So this was the first time that she becomes a part of the community. And she says that freeing yourself was one thing, claiming community, and as an expression of this new freedom, she proclaims that this is another kind of uh, freedom. So when you escape from your slavery, that is one freedom. And when you feel uh, to be one with or a part of a community, okay, that is another feeling of freedom. And when you claim your ownership of that freedom, is the highest level of experience of uh, freedom. Okay, now we come to chapter 10. This chapter 10 focuses on Poldy's journey after he leaves Sweet Home. So chapter 10 again uh, brings us back to the past memory about Poldy, the time when he uh, leaves Sweet Home. So here we see that Sethi's journey, while Sethi's journey had a concrete purpose, that is to be united with her children. But Poldy's journey became a way to home. Okay, so Poldy's journey, that was a way to wander and return back to to his past. So here we see that although he copes by shrinking his emotions, and as we know, he locked his all memories in his tobacco tin. Okay, his all violent memories, hurtful memories. Okay, when he spent his life uh, in a chain gang. Do you know what is chain gang? Chain gang means the prisoners who were uh, who were uh, confined in chains, and they are made to do all kinds of um, uh, menial work. Okay, uh, so they are called that kind of gang who are all chained and made to do uh, uh, all laborious work while in prison life. So they are called chain gang. So her experience in the chain gang was a kind of a horrible experience, and he had to spend 86 days in chain gang. So here, in this particular chapter, all those experiences uh, uh, in his 86 days of that life in chain gang has been described while he was in Georgia. Like other prisoners, Paul D was locked in a small box, like a cage, beaten, humiliated, and sexually assaulted by the white prison guards. Okay, so this was a horrible memory of Paul D. Upon arriving at Sethe's home, Paul D has hopes of making a life with Sethe. So as we see that Paul D had a horrible past, that he had been trying to hide or forget. And when he, after long years, finally arrives at Sethi's house, he had a hope of making a happy life with Sethi. But these attempts were also uh, frustrated by the sudden arrival of Beloved. Okay, so the sudden arrival of Beloved interferes with this plan of Paul D. Now, in chapter 11, we see that Beloved gains emotional power over Paul D. Okay, and Paul D becomes highly restless because he was trying to make uh, a bond with Sethi and make a beautiful family. But that plan was completely frustrated by the arrival of Beloved, and Beloved was also trying to gain emotional power over Paul D, and she was trying to seduce him too. So, being restless, Paul D moves from room to room in the house, trying to find a place to sleep and to cut himself off from his desire and her seduction. He moves out into the shade, and there, Beloved shows up on his door and tells him, I want you to touch me on the inside part and call me my name. Paul D calls out, red heart, red heart, red heart. Okay, so this uh, sudden emotional outburst that refers to his horrible past, as we know, that red heart that he kept in his tobacco tin. So his tobacco chest gets finally broken. Okay, it just broken open as he touches Beloved. So his painful past suddenly got uh, welled up, suddenly got uh, uh, a kind of emotional outlet when he touches Beloved. Okay. And they made love in that shed. And while uh, while they have sex, his mind is filled with horrific memories from his past. Okay, so at that particular moment, uh, his mind becomes uh, uh, overpowered by all the horrific memories, okay, of his past. Overwhelmed with guilt, Poldy tries to tell Sethe about it. So he was trying to tell Sethe about that particular incident, but he uh, could not. So he could not tell that incident, and instead he says he wants her pregnant. So with this remark, Sethi is apprehensive regarding beloved's pregnancy, but is elated at the prospect of their relationship. So here, this particular incident can be seen from different points of view. Okay, so this having sex with beloved is an important catalyst for Paul D because it allows him to connect with his body, emotions, and memories. When beloved seduces Paul D and makes love with him, she actually breaks open the tobacco tin in his chest to release his red heart. So this sexual encounter is important for Paul D's recovery of self. Okay, so here we see that uh, Paul D, uh, after that particular incident, Paul D struggles to regain his manhood. Paul D also feels shame. He is fearful that beloved has challenged and undermined his manhood. A grown man fixed by a girl. But what if the girl was not a girl, but something in disguise? Okay, so that that thought also disturbs or unsettles his mind. Okay, because beloved is just a mere girl. So this very thought unsettles his mind, uh, and his uh, manhood becomes uh, shaken. Okay, and he is also apprehensive of the fact that if beloved uh, is finally proved uh, to be a kind of a ghost or apparition, okay, and that's why he thinks that he should tell Sethe about the truth. But as we know that he could not tell that truth, and he just said to her, "I am not a man." Okay, so he said that I am not a man, and he also indicates to the fact that wants he wants her to be pregnant. And one day, surprisingly, uh, Sethi, uh, with other neighbors of that area, discovered beloved standing, smiling at them naked and pregnant. So uh, this incident uh, was highly terrifying for Sethi. And we also see that uh, uh, Denver, Denver was also seduced by beloved. Okay, in chapter 12, we also see that beloved also seduced Denver, and thus we see that beloved uh, gains a kind of a emotional power over all the characters, Sethi, Paul D, and Denver as well. And at the same time, in chapter 15, uh, we see that beloved also gets very much worried about the relationship between Paul D and Sethi. Okay, and she thinks that Paul D is coming between her and Sethi. Okay, so she is trying to gain power over um, Paul D, but then at the same time, she considers him a kind of a obstacle between her relation with Sethi. Okay, uh, so we end here today in chapter 15, uh, and I think uh, we still need another class to finish the or finish this particular text. Anyway, so this is all for today. Thank you.